Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, where inspired women talk about the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness. We keep our conversations honest, our experiences real, and our philosophies exploratory.
We believe that in order to raise incredible humans, we first have to raise ourselves. We know that in order to rock the family, you've got to nourish the mother. If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way. If you desire to integrate this learning practically and supportively into your life, then Soul-Driven Motherhood is your space to go deeper. Head on over to nourishingthemother.com.au or follow any of the links on our socials for Soul-Driven Motherhood.
We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we're so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast, we have a very special guest, Cliona Byrne, who is a body positive parenting expert and someone who works specifically with helping mums and their body image to raise body confident kids. So we're very excited to dive into this conversation and just nut into our own stories and experiences and just really let Cliona just sing her wisdom over us, which would be magnificent. So before we do that, I'd love to remind you to jump into our community newsletter simply by scrolling on down at nourishingthemother.com.au, dropping in your email address. And once every so often, we send you an email with everything in the world that you need to know about what is happening with Nourishing the Mother. And you can pick if you'd love to dive deeper. So nourishingthemother.com.au. And we have beautiful Cliona. Would you like to say a quick hello to our guests?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
And it's so perfect that you're here, Cliona, because it wouldn't be a Body Love series if we didn't look at the dynamic of the stories and imprints that we carry around our bodies and how they affect our children and how we can look at those and see what we've internalized and taken on and actually inherently believe and how that's affecting our kids. So it's so great to have you here.
Thanks.
So you work with mums with their body image. Oops. Sorry, I just lost my sound. I'm back. We'll just clip that little bit out. So, Cliona, you work with mums who struggle with their body image and you help them to like their own bodies so that they can raise their kids to be body confident. That is a big, a huge focus in this world right now. Like, I don't know if you look at the media the way that we look at it and we look at the cultural kind of messaging that we're constantly bathing in. I mean, it's just so loud. It's almost hard to hear yourself right now.
It's so loud. And it's tough because we're all impacted by this, but we think that we're not. It's one of those things where it's a little bit taboo almost to talk about how we're all impacted regards how we feel about our bodies. Because the truth is, most of us have a really bad relationship with ourselves and we don't even realize it because we just think that's normal. It's just the standard and that's okay. Like recently, there was a statistic that was brought out by Dove in Ireland, and it said that 87% of girls between 10 and 21 have low body self-esteem. So that's nearly all of them. Like, let's be honest, that's nearly all of them. The other 13%, that includes people that are feeling neutral. So that is low, and we can presume that across the board, it's probably like that. So if our girls are feeling that way, how are we feeling? We're the ones that aren't in young bodies. We're the ones in older bodies. And as women, we're told old is bad, which is totally incorrect. But there's so much pressure on us. And what happened to me was I was actually working with anyone and everyone with body image. So anyone who came to me and said, I'm struggling with my body image, I worked with them. And then something clicked and I realized that I'd always thought that our body image was badly impacted by the media and advertising, which it is. Don't get me wrong. They're not clean on this subject. But it clicked because everyone kept saying to me, when I was around the age of between usually 7 to 10, I stopped liking my body. And someone at home made a comment about my body. And then that's when I realized, wait a second, it's actually what happens at home. We grow our beliefs at home. And I started doing research into it. I started sending out questionnaires, talking to people, and it all came together. It was like, okay, we are all at home and we hear our parents speaking badly about their bodies. We see them dieting. We hear them speaking badly about other people's bodies and the people they see on television. And it's just a casual conversation. And then one day it clicks with us that we're also being judged in the same way when someone we love and trust says something negative to us about our bodies. And they may not even realize that they're doing it. It could just be, oh, you've got a cute little belly, or, oh, your ears are lopsided, or you've got big ears. And they might be saying it almost in a term of endearment, but the child suddenly, it clicks. Oh, everyone's being judged and I'm being judged. And that's when we start looking at ourselves with this critical eye. And again, it's happening younger and younger for kids now than it did for us. And part of that is the narrative we have at home. Like, how are we talking about bodies at home? Are we praising all body types, or are we criticizing body types? What's the narrative? And that's what forms our beliefs, is what our parents are saying.
I absolutely adore this conversation, and I have so many questions. But what I would love to do is just invite you to let us know how you arrived here, because it can be so beautiful to just hear someone's story and the wisdom in that evolution to be where you are now, which is clearly very masterful at what you're here to work with and what your purpose is in this world. So would you be able to share with us how you have arrived to being here working with this?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll try to keep it short. So back in the day, when I was 10, I hit puberty really early and became a very voluptuous 10-year-old. And I started getting really badly bullied for being fat and being called fat all the time. And the word fat was weaponized against me. And I use fat as a neutral word. I don't have a problem with the word fat. I think it's a beautiful word, no different than tall, small, whatever. But every day I was being told that I wasn't good enough. And at home, there was like dieting going on and different things going on where the bigger women in my family, who I have the same body type as, weren't happy with their bodies and were constantly trying to become smaller and change that and praising thin bodies. So by the time I was 12, I went on a diet, and I didn't announce to the world I'm on a diet, but I was dieting. I restricted myself. I was exercising all the time. Basically, the summer before I was going to secondary school, so teenage school, high school, I was determined to lose weight because I was terrified I'd go there and I'd receive the same treatment that people would every day be telling me I wasn't good enough. So I thought I have to look like the others in order to just survive. So I lost a lot of weight. Everyone praised me for it. And that's when I got into the cycle of losing weight, of course, gaining it back because diets don't work, trying to lose the weight again, and on and on and on. And that went on into my early 20s. And what happened in my 20s also and in my teens is that I have a problem with my jaw. Well, I used to. And it meant that my jaw was crooked and went to the side. So I knew I was going to have this operation to break my jaw and realign it so I could bite things properly. Like, I couldn't chew food properly. Like, I was swallowing probably big clumps of food that was not properly chewed because only 2 of my molars touched at the back and they only half overlapped. So I had to deal with, worrying about my weight and also this crooked face. So I knew I'd have the operation once I was 20, and I convinced myself that once I have the operation, and if I lose weight, which I did, that my life would become sparkly and wonderful, and all those things you're promised your life will be once you look the right way. And so I lost the weight, had the operation, healed, and then found myself looking in the mirror one day and realizing I didn't feel any different. I felt the exact same. I was like, I need to lose some more weight. Is my face good enough? No, maybe I need to do this. And I actually found myself looking at myself and realizing I'm fed up of myself. I am actually sick of myself right now. I am tired of looking at myself and telling myself I'm not good enough. No one outside my life in my life or outside of my little bubble is telling me I'm not good enough. It's me. I'm the one doing this. And that's when I started my own journey. And it took me quite a while to get off the bandwagon of dieting and critiquing myself and just saying awful things to myself and actually become body confident, which then led me on to working with other people, which then led me on to working with mums, because I understood we're all in this vicious cycle where we end up our parents don't want us to feel bad about our bodies. And then they accidentally pass on hang-ups, and then we're feeling bad about our bodies. And the thing they wanted to avoid happens. So how do we stop it? And that's how I ended up creating body positive parenting.
Such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. I think Bridget and I both rode those waves with you. So that was have to. I think what will be beautiful perhaps is just to start with, what does a body positive environment look like, sound like, feel like?
Oh, I love that question. That's a great question. So a body positive environment, it's one where we're not focused on the body all the time. We're actually liberated from our bodies. We're more than bodies. Our bodies just are. And what happens in that environment is we're not critiquing bodies. We're not sitting around saying, that body's bad, that person on the telly's funny looking, Mary down the road is after gaining weight, she's not good enough, she looks awful. Like, those comments aren't taking place. And the other thing that's not taking place is just praising someone for being thin, praising someone for being beautiful. And a lot of this can happen even just as I said, watching the telly, right? So you're watching the telly and you're like, that person's awful. That person, they're gorgeous. Oh, I'd love to be like her. Oh, wouldn't it be lovely to look like her? That's praising certain body types. And with even just praising, we're saying that certain body types are bad because they're the ones we don't praise. We're like, they don't deserve to be praised. So instead of doing all of that, we're focused more so on non-appearance based things. So saying things like, Granny is such a wonderful listener and she gives the best hugs. Or, you know what I really love about my best friend? She's always there when I need her. And she'll always, come and have a cup of tea with me and a chat. And we start talking about people on what makes them wonderful outside of how they look. Because a lot of the time when we give compliments to people, we always say, like, you're looking great, you're looking well, but we don't compliment anything outside of that. So again, that's showing that's where our self-worth comes. It's like, if we're looking good. So like, one of the things I always teach parents to do is to say something like one of my favorite compliments to give to a person is after they've been through something difficult. And what I like to say is, I know what you went through was really hard, and I really admire how you went through that and how you handled it. You should be really proud. It was wonderful. And honestly, if anyone receives a compliment like that, they're over the moon, and it means a lot more than you're looking well. So we're focused on, not over talking about the body, appreciating people, speaking well about people for things that make them wonderful, not how they look, and also showing gratitude towards ourselves. And this can be really easy to do with kids. I mean, the first time you ask a kid, like if you ask a kid, what are you grateful for? They're going to look at you weird because they don't understand the question. They're like, what does that mean? So we have to teach them and give examples. So some of the easy ways to do that is to say, like, what good things happened today? And if they struggle with the question, answer it yourself and show them how to do it. Be like, what was good today was I got a coffee with a friend and the bus arrived on time, whatever. And then ask them, so what good things happened for you? And same with like, what do you really like about your body? Like, okay, you're not sure to answer the question. I'll go first. Well, I really like how strong my arms are because they allow me to lift you. Or I really love my belly because it's soft and it's cuddly. And you know what? It housed you for a while. And it's wonderful. So we start speaking well of ourselves. We start showing the gratitude. And that's a lot. That's basically it. Oh, and also we get rid of anything that just makes us feel rubbish in the house. So get rid of the diet books. Get rid of the skinny jeans from 15 years ago that you'll never fit back into. Like, stop lying to yourself. Get rid of them. Just get rid of all that stuff. The scale, put it away. Put it in storage for if you need to weigh a suitcase. And that's not coming anytime soon, let's be honest. But like, those things, just put them out of sight. And with your phone as well, unfollow anything that makes you feel like bum about yourself. Like, anything that makes you feel awful, unfollow it. It is not serving you. And we have to remember, we create a ripple effect when we don't feel good. So if we go into the wardrobe and we try on that old pair of jeans, and next thing we're sighing, we're saying, I need to lose weight, I'm disgusting, I'm awful. Oh, okay. And next thing you're back to weighing your food in front of the kids. You're doing exercises to try to change the shape of your body, not because you enjoy the movement. And your kids are watching the whole thing going, oh, this is awful. When did this happen? I just wanted an ice cream and now we're not allowed to have ice cream. So it's just speaking well about bodies, gratitude, getting rid of stuff that makes us feel bad, and also finding movement we like. Finding movement you enjoy doing, getting the kids to do it, saying to the kids, how do you like to move? And they'll probably say, I like to dance, I like going on the trampoline, I like going swimming. And you say, I like going swimming too, let's all go swimming. And make movement about enjoyment rather than it being about, changing the shapes of our bodies. because that's no fun. Let's be honest.
No, I think that's a magnificent explanation. What I'm curious about is, how do you handle, or would you suggest we handle, the conversations or body negative remarks that friends might make if they're over for a cup of tea, or mum's in the schoolyard, that sort of human you don't have a level of control over, but perhaps your children are in the vicinity of. So I certainly recognise this when groups of mums come together for cups of tea. Maybe there's play dates and there's children everywhere, but the conversations aren't I'm not sure what the word is, edited, for want of a better word. How do you approach your friends, or actually family members? Family members as well could be harder for people who are essentially offering the opposite of what you're trying to instill within your family culture.
Love this question. Answer in short: boundaries. No one likes that answer because they're like, I don't want to set a boundary.
No one likes that answer.
Don't make me do it, Cliona. No. But it's the truth. You just got to say to people, I don't want to talk about dieting in front of the kids. Actually, you know what? I don't want to talk about it, full stop. And what you do is you say to the person, I'll take an example that happens a lot. Let's say you have an in-law or one of your own parents, and they're making comments about the kids' bodies. What you can say is, last week I noticed you said Freddie has big feet, right? You said Freddie had big feet, and in the future, I would like if you don't make comments about Freddie's body. And if you do, I will stop the conversation. Now, what I've done there is I've said what happened. So there's the observation. I've said what I want to happen instead. And I've also explained what will happen if the boundary is not respected. And that is your formula, and that's all you got to do. So with the mums, you got to say, you know what, last time we were together, or right now, we're talking about dieting, and I don't want to talk about that. So can we talk about something else? And if you all want to talk about that, that's great. But if you do, I'm just going to maybe step away and make myself a cup of tea instead, or, go see what the kids are at. I will walk away from the conversation because I don't want to be part of it. And I know that can sound scary, but it's really not once you start doing it, because you're saying it with love too. You're like, that's not for me. That's not for me. And boundaries are something we all need to learn. Like, we need to learn how to do it for work and say, I'm not staying late. We need to do it with, that neighbor who just won't leave us alone. We're trying to get out in the morning. We have all, like, with our families, our friends, everyone, we need boundaries. And once we are able to do that, our kids are watching us do it. And the thing is, again, the kids will grow up, they'll see us setting boundaries. By the time they become adults, parents themselves, they'll say, hey, John, I don't think it's cool that you were talking about women in that way. And from now on, let's not do that. I'm going to shut down the conversation if you do.
I really love how clear and succinct you are. It's beautiful. Yeah.
And also not getting caught up in justifications either, because it can be really easy to kind of go because, almost make an apology for why the boundary's there, whereas it's really clear, as Julie said, and succinct, which I love too.
Yeah, that's so true. We go into that rabbit hole of explaining and apologizing, and actually the message gets lost in the end if we make it too long.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful point. So I have an extenuating question from there, which is the conversation, Cliona, around BMI and as associated with weight, particularly of potentially our children, but maybe ourselves, around health professionals. So my third child has a higher BMI. I just think that is the way that her body is. So where I find that really challenging is when you're entering the medical world. So she's a child that has additional needs. So we're often in the rooms of medical professionals, and 9 times out of 10, they will bring it back to her obesity and BMI, and really really hone into her what's wrong with her, or what's wrong with her body weight, or what's wrong with how she's eating. So I'm interested in what you perceive around BMI, conversations around health and professionals, specifically in the place of children.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so sorry you're going through that. I can't even imagine how difficult that is, and frustrating as well. Yeah. to answer the bit on your experience, I would say, again, you can set a boundary with your medical professional and tell them that the subject is weight is not on the table. And you can make that clear. You can say, just so you know, in our appointment today, and from further on, put it in your notes, I don't want BMI to be brought up. I don't want the subject of weight to be brought up. Thank you. Good night. And that's it, right? So you can do that.
Yeah, it's actually an excellent one. Usually I sit there because I'm trained as a naturopath and I understand and I feel like I've got that base covered pretty well. I like kind of roll my eyes and go, oh, for fuck's sake, I'll sit here and listen to you and I'm going to ignore everything you have to say and I'm just going to nod so I can get out of here in the fastest way possible. But what I could say instead is just that.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're in a place where you're sitting through that and you're getting annoyed and you're rolling your eyes. You're like, oh, when will this end? And you don't have to, you don't have to sit through that. You are allowed to say to them, no, because just because they're a doctor does not mean that they have any more right to say something to you that makes you feel bad than anyone else. We can forget sometimes that doctors are people and they have their own belief systems that can be right and can be wrong, that are not even things that they learnt in their degree. It's things that they learnt in life. So it's not the same. And I don't believe in BMI. I think it's rubbish. I think it needs to get in the bin. It doesn't work. It's just, it's wrong for many reasons. And what I would say is I'm a fond believer at health at every size. I think that we're all built differently. And, even if we put the same amount of food and movement and whatever into everyone, we're still going to look different. And that's okay. That's fine. And it's okay to get comfortable with ourselves in this way. The thing is, we are so entrenched in diet culture that we convince ourselves that when we say it's about health, that it's about health. But the truth is, when people are saying, I'm doing this for my health, what they're really saying is, I want to be thin. Because when I'm thin, then my life will become magical and sparkly and all the things that I described that I thought it was going to be earlier. We talk about health, but people aren't really talking about health. I often get messages like on the daily, I get DMs on Instagram saying, particularly after lockdown, saying to me, oh, my child is after gaining weight and I'm worried about their health. And then they'll go on to tell me about their other family members who are large and they don't want their children to be like them, otherwise look like them. And, what can they do? Because, they want to be, they don't want to hurt their kids' feelings, but what should they do? And in that question, they're asking me, how can I make my child thin again without them really knowing about it? And in that, I'm like, this is not about health. Every time that person wrote health, I'll replace it with thin. And it's what they really mean, because we use the word health and thin interchangeably. And that's not the case. You can be in a bigger body and be eating well and doing movement and still be bigger. Thinness is not an indication of health. BMI, it's rubbish. Get in the bin. It's not right. All we need to do is nourish ourselves and find movement we love, and the rest will fall into place.
And
sometimes, thank you. Yeah, and sometimes you're in a bigger body. I'm in a bigger body. I move. I eat well.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, anytime I was thin, I was starving myself. I was restricting myself. I was not happy. I was in a mood. I wasn't great. So that no one can tell me that was health when I was obsessing over, the calories and portions and stuff. Just as
and conversely, Bridgie, I remember you reflecting with me at some point in one of our conversations around your experience of being what you had, in quotation marks, coined skinny fat.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Pardon, what was that?
Which is kind of what we're talking about here. So Cliona's saying, you can eat the cleanest diet, but the only time my body is skinny is when I'm starving myself, and that's not health. And by all means, Bridgie, please, tell us your story. But what I gleaned from your story, and I'll paraphrase, was I was the opposite of health and I was skinny.
Yeah. I could spend like my teen years and my early 20s and I could eat whatever I wanted. And, but I would look healthy because I was, in inverted commas, skinny. I could eat like chicken nuggets and drink Coke, and those things didn't land on my body when I was young for whatever reason. But I could still be held up as a picture of health in our culture, because that's what our culture equates health to be, is how you look based on the paradigm of this, whatever we believe to be healthy. But I mean, even conversely, when I was younger, I used to get picked on and people telling me to eat more because I was, too skinny. So you got to be thin, but not too thin, right? Like, so there's a very narrow, realm in which it's okay to exist before people will then make commentary on how you look.
Yeah. It's like a whisper, that little area where no one will comment on your body because it doesn't really exist. And that's the thing, what is health? What is health? We will convince ourselves of what's healthy. This is healthy. This isn't healthy. But what is health? Because we have decided to say that someone's healthy based on how they look, which is the most ridiculous way of judging health. It's like, well, from the exterior of your body, I will say you're healthy. And that person could have a chronic disease. They could have a lot of food intolerances. They might be struggling with lots of things with their mental health. But on the outside, aesthetically, you're pleasing.
Really
what
true.
is that? What is that? We need to let go of these beliefs because they're just so wrong. And we have to stop convincing ourselves that we're so concerned with health when in reality, we're concerned with how we look.
It's totally true. Yeah. So what does it look like, Cliona, to know the signs of I don't like parts of my body or my body is not fully accepted? What is that? What are the narratives, or what does that look like in all of its different realms?
Oh, well, there's the internal bit and the external part as well. So on the internal part, you'll find that if I'll use, let's say I don't like my body, right? And I wake up in the morning and first thing I do is maybe weigh myself, look in the mirror, start critiquing myself, being like, oh, I look like a root vegetable, I'm old, I'm fat, I'm this, whatever. And all these critical things start coming out. Throughout the day, I might keep thinking about my body and thinking should I eat this? Should I not eat that? Oh, yesterday I ate so much. I went off my diet. I need to go back on the diet on Monday. Oh, and all these thoughts constantly, body, body, body. Walking down the road, dropping kids off to school thinking, okay, is my body, are people looking at me? Are they judging me? Have they noticed I gained weight? Oh. And these thoughts constantly. And maybe spending free time looking at dieting accounts and someone's account where they show what they ate today and, oh, there's only this many calories in it, and looking at accounts like this on Instagram. That's an example of someone who isn't loving themselves, right? And often I'll have mums come to me and they'll say to me, Cliona, I'm totally fine with my body. Yeah, my relationship to my body is fine. But, and then I will receive this shopping list of things they don't like, which would be I don't like my belly since I had kids. Actually, I never liked my belly. I hate my bingo wings. My thighs are too big, blah, 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 blah. And I'll go on and on and on and on and on. And that's the equivalent to saying to me, Cliona, I love cake. Cake is great, but I hate icing. I hate chocolate. I hate vanilla. Actually, I hate everything about cake. And the only way I'd like cake is if it was in this abstract concept where it was made out of, I don't know, fairy farts and glitter. Then I'd like cake. Cake would be great then. But I love cake. Cake's cool. And that's what people will say to me. And I'm like, oh, come on. Let's get on this here. It's okay if you don't like your body. Let's talk about it. It's fine. Let's get the conversation going. Let's not deny it. So that's the bit that happens internally. And then externally, there's different things that can happen. And it depends on how you look, really. I mean, I live here in Paris, in France, and I've experienced fat phobia and I've seen fat phobia. I've experienced fat phobia everywhere I lived. Okay, it's not just a French thing. I'm just basing it on where I live at the moment. But what was interesting was, for example, one day I went food shopping and there was this woman and she was obese. She was gorgeous. She was very voluptuous and beautiful. And she was doing her food shopping. And there was this older woman who was an elderly woman, extremely thin. And the elderly woman decided to stare at the other woman and give her the most dirty look and was looking her up and down. Her mouth was open, staring at her, disgusted, looking around to get other people's reactions. Thankfully, the woman who was being judged had her back to this other lady, so she didn't see it, thankfully. I saw it though, and I went up to the old woman and I did the same thing to her. I looked her up and down. I was like, disgusting. And mirrored what she was doing to the other lady. And then she got embarrassed and walked away. And I was like, how dare you? How dare you stand there and be like, this person, look at them. They're awful. Let's look at them in disgust and think that's okay. Now, that woman who did it, she obviously has her own issues, her own thoughts. She clearly cannot be someone who feels good about her body. But in that moment, I couldn't just leave it. I couldn't just throw a blind eye. I was like, I got to stick up for this lady, even though I don't know her and she will never know what happened, but I have to do something. And stuff like that happens a lot. When you're in a body that's different, you get stared at a lot. I get a lot of looks. I have a lot of people who look at me and then they look at my stomach because I like to wear crop tops. I probably bring it on myself, but I don't care. But they'll like look at me and then like be like, should you be wearing that? Like you can see the look on their face. And sometimes I'll just stand there and do a little, jiggle or whatever and be like, yeah, look at it, deal with it. So you're always going to get a critical eye from other people, but we must remember if someone is looking at you with a critical eye, it's because they're not feeling good about their own bodies. Because when you do not feel good about your own body, you look for the flaws in others to make yourself feel better. And that is the truth. So if you're looking at people with a critical eye, that's why. That is it.
When you say it's okay not to like your body, but let's just start a conversation, what does that mean? Why is that okay? And what difference does a conversation make? And what does that conversation do?
Well, the reason I say it's okay is because when people come to me, that's the situation they're in. And when we get to the point of just saying, you know what, I'm in a place where I don't like my body, that means you're in a place of acceptance. And you've gone out of the place of denial of saying, I love cake, but, I'm okay at my body, but here's my shopping list of things I don't like. It's just getting okay with that's your status right now. That's how you feel. No different than saying I'm single, I'm in a relationship, I'm married. I currently don't feel good about my body. And there's no judgment there. It's okay. It's okay to be in that place. It's okay to take up space in that place. And if you want, you can work on liking your body, because I promise over on this side, things actually are kind of sparkly and glittery and actually are all those things you thought they would be once you looked a certain way. But the truth is, it's not about changing how you look to get to that place. It's about accepting yourself and having a good relationship with yourself, because honestly, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. It's not the one with your partner. It's not the one with your mom, your kids, whoever. It's yourself. Because if that is aligned and if that's in a good place, the other ones will flourish too. So it's okay if you're in a place where you don't like it right now. That's fine. It's okay if you're okay about it. It's okay if you love it. It's okay if you're indifferent to it. It doesn't matter where you are on that scale. It's all acceptable. But it's about you. It's not about, what we think of how people feel about their bodies. It's about each individual person and where they are and where they want to be and how they want to feel about themselves.
I imagine for you, you might find that even just that acceptance is a revelation for some women, just to be accepted however they're feeling about themselves. Because if you grow up in a culture that is always about changing and being better, to be met in that way must be quite profound for some women.
Massively. And a lot of women are shocked when they come to work with me and they're like, I still want to lose weight. I still want to diet. I still want to do all these things. I'm like, yeah, okay. That's okay. I'm not gonna, take away these things that you're not ready to let go of just yet. I'm like, that will come with time, but let's just start talking about it. Let's start acknowledging, okay, what are the things you're uncomfortable with? What's going on at home? What are you saying in front of the kids? Okay, what needs to change here? And all that other stuff, it drops away naturally, because when we start to realize, actually, you know what? I really am okay with the size I am now. I just feel like I need to lose weight because all the other mums down the school are smaller than me. And then we start going, my body actually deserves to be nourished, and start nourishing ourselves and eating food we actually love and enjoy and finding movement we like and things. All that diet culture and stuff, it's naturally going to fall to the sideline. And it is like for me, anyone I work with, I don't care how you feel about your body right now. What I care about is like helping you feel better about it. You could love your body and say, I want to stop thinking about it because I can't stop looking at it in the mirror. And I'd be like, all right, cool. Let's get you to that place where you don't think about it. But it doesn't matter where you are on your journey. It's just, we're all on a journey, and we all come into the world neutral. We come in and none of us have a problem with our bodies. We'll run around the house naked. You see toddlers and babies looking in the mirror, blowing kisses, kissing the mirror, being like, this is the best thing ever. I'm having a great day. And we like ourselves. So it's positive. And it's later it becomes negative. So it's like a scale, basically. And again, it doesn't matter where you are on the scale. No judgment here. come on over, I'll work with you. We'll make you like yourself more. But that's all okay. Yeah.
What would be your suggestion for children that you perceive are already body conscious, or I'll just leave it at body conscious, already body aware or body shaming at a younger age? So I certainly totally resonate with your statistic, because that is a conversation with primary school aged mums. That's a really big conversation from grade 1 or 2. So we're talking about 6-year-olds. 6+, this is a conversation. I'm already shamed in my body. I'm already going to be repeating. What I hear is a lot of repeating of sentences that I can only assume is what they're hearing at home. Gosh, did you eat that? You're such a fat pig. Can't believe you're going to eat that much. You're so fat. You're so ugly. But like these things that then they throw out at other kids, because I'm assuming that's part of their narrative from home. So for our children that we may already, what I don't want to do is have mums fall into this like collapse of like, oh my God, look at what I've already done because I haven't been censoring around my child, or I'm aware. What can we do to bring back the esteem or body connection for our children for whom perhaps that's been a little bit damaged?
Right. So fantastic. True. So this thing, right, I would say to all parents, to anyone who's listening to this and going, it's okay. Don't panic. It's fine. This isn't a thing of like we're trying to add to your pile. It's just a thing of let's give yourself space to like yourself. You don't have to be 100% selfless. You're allowed to like yourself. So when it comes to the kids, right, what you said is right. If kids are going into school and they're, throwing out these awful comments, it's because it's what they're hearing at home. They didn't, like, where else did they get that from? Saying to someone you're fat, or you shouldn't be eating that, or you're a fat pig, whatever it is. Those things they're hearing at home. So if we can see those signs in kids and they're already, judging other people. And as I said, if you're judging other people, you're judging yourself, right? You're judging yourself harsher than you're judging those other people. So in that case, what has to happen is we need to, like I said, kind of rework what's going on at home. So change the narrative. How are you talking about bodies? How's your partner, if you have one, how are they talking about bodies? Are you dieting? Are you going around the house calling yourself fat? Are you being like, I'm a fat pig because yesterday I had a takeaway? Are you, saying that someone on the telly is disgusting, or again, Mary down the road isn't good, or whatever it is? Like, what are the conversations that are taking place? What's happening at home? And you can correct that very quickly, because once you are aware of it, you're like, oh, ooh, saying stuff maybe I shouldn't be saying, and correct yourself on it. And don't worry about being perfect. I mean, there's no such thing as perfection. We're all perfectly imperfect, but maybe start making some changes. And if you see that criticism in your kid, start doing the things where, again, what are you grateful for? Start speaking well about your own body too. Start saying like, I'm looking fabulous today, blow yourself a kiss, do whatever. And get the kids to do it too. Start changing the narrative. Start changing how you talk about bodies. Maybe you always praised let's say you have a daughter and you always praise your daughter and having beautiful hair. She'll start to think that a lot of her worth is held up in her hair. So step away from that and start saying like, you're so strong, and wow, look at you climb that tree, look at those strong arms, and start praising them in different ways. Start building up their confidence in different ways. But it will always, always, always come back to, what are you doing? What are you saying? What's going on? That's always where it stems from. Because the thing is, right, I have parents coming to me again all the time saying, look, I want to help my kids with their body image, but I don't want to do anything like stay away from me, my thing with my body, that's whatever. And this is how it works, right? You can't teach someone how to drive a car if you do not know how to drive a car. And you can get into the passenger seat and tell them in theory how to drive the car and be like, I don't know, put on the indicator. And it will end in a blazing row and no one will feel good about themselves and it'll be a disaster, right? Same goes for body image. You cannot teach someone how to like their body if you do not know how to do that for yourself. You just can't. It's that simple.
So powerful. Is there anything that you want to ask Bridgie before we wrap up today?
No, I'm just soaking it all in because this whole deconstructing of our internalized belief around bodies is massive work when you consider just how long we've bathed in a particular kind of narrative, or, where you realize how insidious your own family narrative is. And so I love your recommendation of how to begin to rewire that, because it's just changing that conversation with yourself first and seeing how that shifts with your child over time. And that, of course, because it's so ingrained, you're going to trip up sometimes, and to not beat yourself up over it. I just love that reminder. Thank you.
Yeah, everyone, please be gentle with yourselves on this. It's a lot to figure out. It took me a while too. Like, this isn't something where you have to have it perfect. You're going to figure it out with time, and there's healing that has to take place there too, and that all takes time. So everyone, just be easy on yourselves. It's okay.
Is there anything, before we move into our quick fire questions, Cliona, that you feel called to share or want to drop in for our listeners?
I would just say, if you want your kids to be body confident and assured in their bodies and feel good about their bodies, it's okay to work on your own relationship. Just to say it again, it's okay to do that. That's totally fine. You're allowed to do that. We are raised as women to be selfless. And actually, we need to start being more selfish. And there is nothing wrong with that. We need to put on our own oxygen masks first, take care of ourselves. And that's important. You're allowed to do self-care. You're allowed to think about yourself. You're allowed to do things for you. That's part of the parcel. And actually doing that helps your kids more than if you are constantly running on empty, never doing anything for yourself. And the kids seem like they're all right, but they're looking at you and thinking, God, mum is always tired. She's not happy. She's always saying awful things about herself. Oh, is this what it's like to be an adult woman? So be kind to yourself. Just be kind.
That's really
Thank you.
Yeah. So our three quick fire questions, how we'll roll is I'll ask you the first one and then I'll hand over to Bridgie, who'll ask you the last two. So the first question, Cliona, that we ask every podcast guest is, can you think of a time that you feel willing to share where you have transformed a wound or a challenge into wisdom? So what we're interested in is the time that was really challenging for you, what you did during that time, and then out of that you go, you know what, here's the wisdom that I have found from my life experience, and I would love to share this piece of gold with you.
So before I started working in being a body, like image coach, let's say, before body positive parenting came along back in the day, it was just a few months after my maternal grandmother had died. And I went back to Ireland to see her. And it was one of those weird experiences where I knew it was going to be the last time I was going to see her. And I was rubbing her feet. And this is something I always do for people when they're in hospital. And I was like, will I give you a foot rub? Because I don't know why I always do it. Anyway, so I was giving her a foot rub. And I was thinking about the fact that she had spent a lot of her life being a bit at war with her body, not being happy with the fact it was bigger, even though she was the most beautiful woman, like incredibly beautiful. And I remember thinking, like, you've been at war with your body, and now all you want is for your body to function in the way that it did. And that was when something really clicked in my mind, where I realized I'm not going to repeat that. And it opened up something inside of me. And it's hard to explain, but I remember thinking, I'm not going to continue this. I've got the same body type as you, and I'm going to love it enough for myself and for you. And that was something that really changed me. And that brought me then into the work that I do.
Wow. I really feel that.
Yeah, me too. Sharing that. That was really beautiful.
Thank you. Now, we all have those books that deeply imprint us and I don't know, call to our soul. I'd love to hear, what is that for you? What would be the book that you would recommend other women read and perhaps gift to other women?
So there's one I read recently. It's a new book, and I just think it's genius because it really just puts together all of the stuff that I'm trying to tell people about boundaries. It's like a manual. It's amazing, right? It's by Michelle Alman, and it's called The Joys of Being Selfish. And like I said, it's okay to be selfish, right? But this book, she really lays out how to set boundaries. And all of those different obstacles you might go, feel or go, oh, I can't do that. She really uncovers it all and explains how to do it. And with boundaries, like I said, you're going to use this for body image stuff, but you'll also use it in work, relationships, every aspect of your life. And boundaries are so important because if you don't, the thing is, most of us don't even know what our own boundaries are. And then we get angry and resentful towards people for like not respecting our boundaries when we don't even know what they are. And we never actually explain to them that we had a boundary. And then we're angry and resentful and they don't even know they did anything wrong. So this book is important. If you're like, oh, I could do it boundaries, get the book. If you're not sure if you need boundaries, let me put it to you like this. If you ever leave a conversation or a situation feeling really annoyed and resentful because they said something or did something, you need boundaries. You need boundaries because the reason you're feeling that way is because you didn't set a boundary with that person. And that's why you're leaving the coffee with the mums feeling annoyed because they're talking about dieting. It's because you didn't actually set a boundary with them. And that's on you, not on them. So read the book. It's great. There's a lot of learning there and it encompasses everything that I'm already telling people about boundaries, but Michelle just wraps it up beautifully. So get that book. It's fantastic.
Thank you. And if you could have a billboard on a superhighway anywhere, what would it say?
I think what I would like to put on it would be your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship you'll ever have. I think that, and I know I've already said that earlier, but I really do think it's true because we ignore that relationship so much and we're often so cruel to ourselves and so critical to ourselves. And the truth is, if we treated ourselves, like if we treated a friend the way we treat ourselves, we would have no friends. Like no one would want to be friends with us. They'd be like, you're awful. You keep telling me I don't look good and you keep telling me I'm not good enough. Like, of course, no, but we treat other people outside of ourselves so much better than we treat ourselves. So treat yourself well, give yourself the compliment, smile at your reflection, treat yourself the way you treat a friend.
Oh, Cliona, that's heaven.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. It's that simple, really.
Thank you so much. What a joy it has been to have you and your energy and your wisdom and words in this space. I really do feel blessed by it, and I'm sure our listeners will be too. Can you please share how we can find you, connect with you, and go further with your work?
So you can find me either through Instagram or my website are the best places. So my Instagram handle is Cliona, which is Cliona, Cliona_the_coach. And then my website is cleonabyrne.com. And yeah, the work I do is I run the program Body Positive Parenting and I work with mums one-on-one. It takes place over 5 weeks. We do 5 sessions together and I'll take you from wherever you are and feeling about your body. If you're like, I love cake, but come to me. And what I'll do is I will help you to like your body and I'll teach you everything and give you all the tools you need to actually create that body positive environment to raise your kids to like their own bodies.
Such important work.
Thank you. So we will have all of your links in our show notes. So if you missed that and you're unsure, just scroll on down to the show notes under this podcast and you will see them there. So thank you once again, Cliona. What an absolute treat it has been, really. And you're coming into Soul-Driven Motherhood to do an extended and deeper conversation with us. So if you're in Soul-Driven Motherhood, you can absolutely look forward to that. And we fully welcome you to bring your questions and perhaps your stuck places so that we can have this beautiful opportunity to be with Cliona and once again her delicious energy. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you both. It's been so amazing.
Thank you, Bridgie.
Yes, check with me. It is bridgetwood.life. And you, Jules?
Is julietenner.love.
Remember to nourish the woman to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
Thank you so much for listening. We literally couldn't do this without you. Please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
And if you're ready to ask, in what ways can I show up more fully, live more meaningfully, parent more wholly, and love more unconditionally? How can I mine the wisdom from the experiences of my life and expand into those challenges? Then you're a soul-driven, heart-led mama who's ready for conversations and a community that supports her journey. Come join Soul-Driven Motherhood. We'd love to have you.
And if you feel like giving back a little to this free content, please rate us on iTunes or Facebook. all of which helps the podcast reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.